Hey guys, how's it going again? Well, it is kind of early in the morning and it's kind of nice and quiet for the most part, and all the residents have went to school and to work for the most part. So aside from a guy doing his yard down there, we don't really have to fight to talk over a lot of noise going on, so that's a good thing and a pleasant change. So I wanted to wrap up a couple things that I've got videos out on right now, posted up. And the first one I want to do is I wanted to go ahead and show you this catch can system I made installed into the car here on this Volvo. This is a B230 FT. This is a turbocharged B230 engine. This is a common red block that you know and love from a lot of these Volvos. And this is a car that, by the way, this is an 88 760 turbo wagon, and this is a car I picked up on Craigslist a while back, and you've seen many videos on it so far that I've done to log my repairs that I've done on it. A lot of small repairs it did need. So what was going on was this car, when I bought it, the lady had quit driving it and had a couple things with the oil going on. Number one, it had popped out a cam seal back here, just pushed it forward, and when that happens, the oil that's in the head tends to leak pretty bad out the front, back behind the timing cover and out on the ground, and it was there and it was going all over the engine. It was just a nasty mess. So that was the first thing that was wrong with it. So that's probably why for sure she quit driving it. And then she said also it was periodically smoking, and they thought something was wrong with the turbo on it, and that's not unusual to have happen. You know, turbos can and do fail. And so this one has got, by the way, this has got I think this is a Mitsubishi 13B turbo on it. The older ones used a Garrett T3, which is a larger turbo, but they changed to this one to get it to spool up quicker. And you kind of have a trade-off: either it's going to spool up quicker and less total output, or it's going to spool up slower with more output. So that's what it has. So I got this thing home and I got it cleaned up and got the timing belt changed and the oil seals all changed and the breather box all changed and all this stuff. Went through all this stuff and so on and so forth. Resonant. That guy drives that Honda. He drives like he's driving a fire all the time. I don't know why they drive that way now. They just, I don't know, they don't care about their gas mileage, I suppose. But anyway, so I did all this stuff and started driving it around here and noticed that it was doing exactly what she said it was doing, and that was that it would run just fine, but periodically you'd be driving along and give it gas and it would just smoke a cloud out the back of it. And so it would do that, and it would rattle up here, what people call spark knocks, actually detonation, but it was rattling. And what was happening was it was ingesting oil into the turbo and through the turbo and then through the intercooler and then into the intake and being burnt, which is not supposed to happen, not in those amounts. And I drained about, I don't know, a little over half a quart of oil out of the intercooler. You can drain the intercooler on these, got a drain under it. And kept finding oil in the intake track and in the IC and all that stuff, and in the inlet side of the turbo. But see, that'll tell you something. Usually when turbos fail, they fail to the point that you find oil in the exhaust, not the intake. But this one had it in the intake, so that was telling me that excuse me, I do that when it's early in the morning. And I don't smoke either. It's just the weather and my allergies, I suppose. But anyway, make this not a real long story, but it was that was pointing out to me that it had to be getting oil upstream somewhere. So I knew that, I didn't quite understand that. I was thinking, well, the breather box, you know, that thing, it should do its job even if its engine's a little bit tired. And so I thought about that, and I thought, well, I guess what I will do in the meantime is I will just do away with the factory routing of the oil mist. And I guess I need to kind of tell you about that too. What happens originally is this thing's got a breather box down on the block down there, and it's got I think it's got 2 holes on the bottom, and it's got 1 port on the top. And 1 hole on the bottom is just the outlet for the block. In other words, that's where all the blow-by gas and whatever spits up, and then it comes through this box, and the box is designed with baffles so that this stuff kind of gets caught, and then the liquid stuff is supposed to run back down the other hole and back down to the engine block into the sump so it doesn't get coughed up here. And then you have the port on the top of it, which is on the other end of that rubber line right there, kind of down in there. And the way they originally had it was, it came up in it was a hard nylon line, which is hard as heck now with them flex. And it comes around, and it comes over here to this T right here on the intake. This is the intake side of the turbo. And it comes in there, and that's how you're supposed to process your blow-by gases. Well, that seemed to me like it wasn't happening effectively enough, so what I decided to do is I just said, well, I'm going to reroute all this. I'm going to make a catch can, and at least that will, if this engine's so tired that it's just blowing that much oil out, then at least it will keep the oil out of the turbo and out of the intake, so it won't keep getting everything gooped up and smoking and things like that. At least I can drive it. So that's what I did. This thing that you've seen me building back there, what I did was I took that hard plastic molding line off, and then why am I reaching the camera out there when I've got a zoom on here? I installed that is a piece of, I think that's 1/2-inch heater hose, which that's not what you use on this. It's all I had. You can get a specific kind of line, but I think the reason I didn't use all of that kind of line is because that stuff will not bend that well, and that's kind of a hard bend right there. So if you do use that kind of heater hose on this, it's got oil going through it, just keep in mind that it's not going to last a whole long time probably. And then I just routed it around and come around. I got this line from Home Depot. It's on a big spool back there in the plumbing department. It's rated for oil. And brought it around and I installed had a hard as heck time trying to find a place for this catch can, but I finally found a bracket I could connect it to. What I did here is I got an old ignition coil bracket and bolted it to the car, and then this thing sits right in here, and I can kind of pick it up and service it if I need to without much problem. And connected my lines in the proper orientation, which means inlet over here, outlet over here, and then came around, just ran it around and teed it back into the intake where the original line was. And so I want to make this the lowest point right here so that I got a little dip right there. I couldn't help that, but I want to make it the lowest point so that anything that collected would go sink to the lowest point, and then it'd have to work hard to come back out. So now here's where this gets interesting, and I have to tell you what I did, and I didn't catch this at first, but I had not changed the oil in this car yet, because I wanted, if I was going to change oil in, I wanted to put synthetic in, and that's what you're supposed to use with the turbo. So I wanted to put synthetic in, and I wanted to see how much oil it was actually using, before I did that, because that's money that you really don't really want to spend. Oh, he got me. It's never quiet in a neighborhood, is it? Ever. So I decided, well, I drove it around some, and it seemed like it was catching some oil in this thing. And that bottom drain, that's one of those automatic drains, and I have it rigged closed, but it's kind of dripping a little bit anyway, just a little bit. And it was pushing some oil through this thing still. But the good thing was it was pushing it to there and not going any further. You can see this line is, you can see it on the camera, it's just clean as a whistle, and that eliminated the smoking and the rattling and all that. So I was satisfied and said, well, I can live with that. If that's the worst it is, I'll just keep oil in it, and that'll be that. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and change the oil in it. So I went and bought, these engines take 4 quarts of oil, and they take a little bit more, about another half quart if you can drain that oil cooler out. I showed you on the other video. And so you saw that little clip right there, which is kind of 2 things in one. I'm kind of getting in a hurry sometimes to make videos. I've been trying to catch up on videos too, but I started draining the oil out of this thing, and that's almost a 6-quart drain pan that I use, and it almost ran it over the top of oil. So this car had nearly 6 quarts of oil in it, and I had checked the oil. I'd already checked the oil. Somebody asked me that, and yeah, I did check it, and it didn't look over full, but I don't know if maybe I didn't read it right or what the deal was. But upshot of it is, it had like almost 2 quarts too full of oil in it, and you have to dig and dig and dig and dig to find information out on stuff on these cars sometimes. And so what I discovered was, somebody somewhere, they said you have to remember, if you overfill one of these, then that tube on the bottom, that drain tube, which is probably about 6 or 7 inches long, comes out of that. It's not part of the breather box. It sits in a block, and it sticks down in the sump there. That drain tube will get submerged, and when that happens, this engine will not breathe anymore. The breather system won't function anymore, because it's not the way it's designed to work. So now, whether that's right or not, I don't know, but anyway, here's the good news. After I put the right 4 quarts of oil back in it, my main seal back there quit leaking. This thing is just about quit catching any oil now. You know, it may drop a couple drops out of it after a drive, and no smoke, no knocking, no nothing. It's all went away, and it hadn't used really any oil at all now. So dodged the bullet on that one. I did not want to replace a turbo. So now makes me wonder if that was even needed to do that, but I'm glad I did it, because as I've mentioned to you before on one of those series of videos, this is the AC down there. It's called idle stabilizer, and that thing is where it's located there with that line going down to it. It's a dumb place to do that, but that's what they did. So it catches anything that's coming through the intake. That's where it's going to settle at. So okay then, guys, let's keep our fingers crossed on this. And so I think that's probably going to be it on any kind of the catch can or oil videos, I guess. We'll see how this goes, but I'll keep you updated. If it turns sour again, I'll sure let you know. But I've been driving this car around, and it's a good running car. So drives good, everything. I like it. Somebody's asked me the question, and you know what the question is? The question is, are you going to keep it? Well, I don't know. You know, I'm a guy who loves life, and I like to experience everything in life, and I like to experience different cars, so I'll keep it until I don't want to keep it anymore, I guess, and that'll be it. Okay, let's cut her off, guys. 14 minutes in. See you then. Thanks for watching.